Hi guys, so welcome to my first recap of the new ABC Family show Chasing Life. It premiered last Tuesday, um, but I feel like it's still pretty fresh in my mind, so I'll do the best I can. So we start off with the main character. I believe her name's April. I don't know all the characters' names yet, so forgive me if I get them wrong, but so she's a reporter, or at least an aspiring one. And so she's trying to get into this charity event for some famous baseball player is throwing, but he doesn't want any press there, and so she's trying to figure out ways. The first way didn't work out, so then she figured out a different way, but that way didn't work out either. But I guess it's some blood drive that the charity event is, and her estranged uncle is working it because he's a doctor. Um, and so she goes and knocks on his door, and they have a little spat, or whatever you want to call it. But then he eventually figures out a way for her to be involved, and then the baseball player comes to check on all the people who are giving blood. And then he starts talking to her. They start flirting a little, and but then he figures out that she's a reporter and tries to kick her out. And then she stands up, but she faints, and so he gets her some help. And then when she wakes up, he's there, and he basically says nobody's ever done something that crazy for an interview. Yeah, and then she's late to a meeting at her work. I guess she's what you call a floater. And so they're having a meeting, and the boss is basically yelling at her for being late. But then she says, "Oh, I got this interview with this person." I forget the baseball player's name. Sorry. And they all turn around like, "How the heck did you get an interview with him? Because nobody else here has been able to get one with him." And I think, I don't know if she ever told them how she got it or not. But then, so she goes and sits down at her desk and starts talking to her friend. And then a cute guy walks by, and they sort of have a flirty moment. And then he ends up asking her out, and they go on a date. And everything seems to be going fine. Oh yeah, before all this, we find out she lives with her mom, grandma, and little sister. And her dad had passed away a few years ago, I guess. And I believe, from what I gather, I think her uncle was driving drunk, and so that's why she's estranged from him. And yeah, but her little sister's name is Brenna. Then her mom starts saying, "Oh, I think it's about time I start one of those online dating sites." And I don't remember their reactions, but they took her profile picture for her and all that. And then she goes on the date. Not the mom, but the daughter goes on the date, and they have her and the guy have a really good time. And then she turns the corner to go into her house, and there's her uncle, and he says, "We need to talk." And she basically blows him off, but then he convinces her to stay, and he tells her that she has cancer. And I don't believe we found out what stage it's in yet. But so she asks what kind, and she said, "Well, first of all, how do you know?" He said, "Well, after you fainted at the blood drive, I took the liberties of doing some blood tests because that's not a normal reaction." And so, um, and her uncle's an oncologist, and so he says, please come see me about this, tomorrow or whenever. And so she reluctantly agrees, and then the next day her uncle shows up to her work, and they start talking in the stairwell. But the guy that she had just gone on a date with, he heard her voice, so he kind of went up the stairs a little, then heard her uncle's voice. And the way the conversation was going, you could tell that he was going to end up thinking that her uncle was her boyfriend or husband or somebody like that. And so, basically after that, he starts blowing her off, and so then she goes to the bar with her best friend, and ends up seeing the guy she went on a date with, and her best friend convinces her to go over, and it's just like, look, what do you have to lose? He's already mad at you, so you really don't have anything to lose. So she goes over and asks him, hey, why have you been blowing me off? I thought we had a good time the other night. And he said, we did, but then I heard you talking in the stairwell. Her uncle's name is George, to George. And then she basically explains, that's my uncle, and it's a very complicated story, and then it seems good, and they share another kiss, and then at the end of the episode, oh yeah, I forgot, her little sister, I guess, has caused problems since their dad died, but then I guess it seemed like she was getting back on track. But then her sister ends up going to a party, and it was just not a good thing. And to me, it was actually pretty dark for ABC Family, like even darker than Pretty Little Liars and all that. And so Brenna calls April saying, crying, saying, please help. And so April goes and helps her. And, let's see. I lost my train of thought. And then April, keeps trying to find ways to tell her mom or her family about her cancer, but it's just, things keep getting in the way, and she doesn't want to ruin their good time. And so she just then starts taking her anger out on everybody else. And yeah, and then we see her go to visit her dad's grave, and she basically tells him what's going on. And then as she's leaving, there's this other girl coming with flowers, and she says, oh, hey, pretty flowers. And the other girl is like, oh, thanks, they're for my dad. And so April then turns around to see where the girl's dad is buried, and she goes to April's dad's grave, which I knew as soon as April said hi to the girl, I knew that girl was going to be related to her somehow. And that's pretty much where we left off. And there's a new episode on tonight. I really like this show so far, and I highly recommend you check it out. And I'll see you next time. Bye.